I'm Andy Bush, economist at andrewbush.com, helping people move from chaos to confidence. And we got a big week ahead of us with a load of important events, including central bank meetings, a possible release of a COVID therapy, and a test case for when states can reopen. And we'll cover all of these and why I remain confident in the opening of the U.S. economy and that it will move ahead. All right, so first up, central banks. Now, this week, we get meetings from the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, and the Federal Reserve. Now, why does this matter, or why do we care about this? Well, all of these central banks are trying to help their economies by really doing as much as they legally can and probably going beyond that to help them. Now, the Bank of Japan is buying all sorts of things to help provide liquidity and stability to their financial markets, banking sector, and their economy. Well, on Tuesday, they're going to meet and likely state that they're going to have an open-ended program of buying assets or quantitative easing to do this and leave their target for interest rates at minus 0.1%. Now, the interesting development here is that the Bank of Japan will eventually own more assets than the actual size of their economy. I mean, that's kind of like mind-blowing, right? How does that even happen? And this raises questions, important questions, about the independence of a central bank and should a non-elective set of technocrats be allowed this power? It's a good question for all of these central banks. Now, on Thursday, the ECB meets this week as well. And remember, the EU can't even issue a bond that is supported by all their members, unlike the United States. And on April 23rd, they failed to do that again. It's just amazing. I mean, that just blows me away. So it's pretty hard for the central bank to buy assets in the size that they needed and the liquidity that they need to provide for their collective economies. Now, expect the ECB this week to expand their asset purchases. But really, clearly, that's not the issue. The issue is Italy and whether Italy really wants to stay part of a currency union that can't support it. That's a great question, and that's a pretty scary one to answer. All right, for the Federal Reserve, they're going to continue to buy assets at a lower rate than previously what they had, but their balance sheet is massive. It's $6.7 trillion. But that's not what matters. It's all of the lending that really has gotten the market's attention. Now, this lending that they're doing backstops all the PPP lending that the stimulus programs have created, along with some new Fed direct lending. And this is really where the rubber meets the road to help the economy and small business. Let's see what Chairman Powell says about the economy after they meet and how they view the shutdown. Now, this week, we're also going to get Q1 GDP, but no one cares about that. Everyone's focused on what Q2 is going to look like. And that right now, ladies and gentlemen, is running at minus 12%. It's unbelievable. All right, now let's look at another big event that's coming up. Gilead Sciences is going to release their trial results from their therapy for the COVID virus. Now, there is tremendous optimism in the markets that it's going to work very well and that the FDA will give them rapid approval for broad use. So the risk here is that the results aren't great and the market will be disappointed. But I doubt Gilead went into this trial without knowing that it had a pretty good idea it would work. Now, there are multiple studies going on multiple theories across the globe, and this is really a big positive. And remember, from past videos, I'm going to give you my big three for getting the economy back up and working. These are the things I need to see and we should see. Number one is hospital capacity. Now, we're seeing this happen with beds being created all over the place. In Chicago created 3,000 more beds that they thought they needed. And guess what? It turned out they only needed 250. So check this box. All right, PPE gear, that's number two, with Ford and GM making gowns and ventilators. I mean, these are just a few examples of the power of American industry to create the equipment and PPE gear that is needed for our healthcare workers. Now, we're not there yet, clearly, but we're just weeks away, so I would check this box. And finally, therapies. If we can create the therapies that work and give people confidence that if they get the virus, they will recover and then be able to go back to work, then this is the last box we need to check. Now, my optimistic guess is we're going to see this by mid-May, and that'll be great news. All right, finally, we're going to get a test case on how a state does when it reopens, with Georgia reopening on April 30th. Now, it's been weird and strange to see people on Twitter and the media almost rooting for this to go badly, and a lot of bad memes going around, right? But why would you even do that, right? We need states to have different approaches to opening up based on their individual state density, culture, and geography. We can learn a lot from this happening. By the way, I wouldn't be just using the number of infections as a metric for success. Really, what we want to see is the state function while protecting those at risk so people can get back to work. That's really what we're shooting for. And all of this is why I'm very optimistic that the opening of the U.S. economy will continue and do so at a pace that works for each individual state. I mean, if Georgia surprises, then many more states will follow, and that would be great news. Remember, this isn't just a U.S. trial opening as well. New Zealand is fully reopening, as are other countries, and that's great news. Again, we're going to learn a lot from all of this happening. Okay, so to recap, it's a big week for the economy and the markets as three things are going to happen. First, we're going to get three big central bank meetings. Second, we're going to get a likely release of a key study on a critical therapy for COVID. And finally, the state of Georgia reopens as a test case for what the rest of the country can do. Now, all three add to why I'm very optimistic of the opening of the U.S. economy will continue to move forward quickly and get people back to work. Okay, if you like this video and you want to get them delivered every time they're released, please just click subscribe down below and share it with your friends. If you want to learn more about what is happening in the U.S. economy from the virus and the price of oil, click the video below, and I'll see you in the next one.